Begin transmission. Hello, everybody. It is Ben and Chris here with Outer Rim Transmission, your weekly Star Wars podcast full of positive community members and friends alike. This is episode 169 of the podcast, and tonight we are reviewing Lego Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy. We also have a really cool Lego news story, plus a few other news stories to break down. So we're going to have this episode jam-packed with good Star Wars content. Ben, I know you recently downloaded another Star Wars audiobook, one that I've actually experienced, so let us know what it was.
Yeah, I downloaded one of the classic Legends book. I haven't read it since 2013 when it came out, and it's the original Kenobi book, and it's written by John Jackson Miller, and it's a really, really good one.
Yeah.
And I haven't read it since then. Obviously, it's one of my favorites, but it's just been forever since I've read it. So I was like, you know what? It's getting kind of like the colder time of year, and I need something to listen to when I'm out walking and that sort of stuff. So I downloaded that book. It's almost like 14. I think it's like very close to 14 hours. So it's a pretty good listen. So like, me going on like 30-minute walks, that'll be however a few weeks for me to listen to it, which is nice. And then like I don't know, it's a pretty special Star Wars book, I feel like, for Star Wars fans, because it's one of the last Legends books that were written before like the Disney like buyout and like canon resetting basically and doing all that stuff. So it's definitely exciting to get into it. And the thing about that book is like it set like kind of the standard for, unfortunately, fairly or unfairly, it's such a good story. Mm-hmm. Like it set the standard for the Kenobi show. Like people probably even unaware, they were probably unknowingly in the back of their heads like thinking about this book if they have read it before, when they were looking at the Kenobi show. So it's a really, really good story, and I can't wait to get diving into it. I'll keep everybody updated as I am.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? As I read that myself, one of the few Legends books I've read outside of the Old Republic Legends books, definitely was very, very memorable. I remember the last segment, I was spoiling anything, dealing with Tusken Raiders and Kyber crystals and maybe a Krayt Dragon. It was really neat. It was a really good book, a little slower, but it really just does one of the best jobs of a Star Wars book, which is to really feature a single character and really extrapolate upon that character and focus. There's a lot of ensemble books like Thrawn Trilogy, but you have Kenobi, you have Plagueis, these one name novels that really go deep diving into these characters. So yeah, I started listening to Dragon Age Vows and Vengeance, and it's an audio drama that's a precursor to the upcoming Dragon Age Veilguard coming out in October. And
oh, nice.
Yeah, the only reason why I'm mentioning it is because I immediately started thinking about the Star Wars audiobooks and Star Wars audio dramas, because I haven't listened to anything outside of like a Star Wars audiobook ever. And I got to hand it to the people over at EA and BioWare and everybody involved, because it's cool to see like a high fantasy story where you're hearing crickets in the background, it's nighttime. You're hearing people wandering through the caves and like the echoey voices of like in a cave. Like, it's really cool to have the audio dramas, to have the audiobooks as you're driving down this monotonously long highway to work every day. And you're able to like, literally, like I'm driving the car, I'm paying attention, obviously, but in the back of my head, I'm also imagining these adventures that these characters are going to. I can see it in my mind's eye of like where they are, because it's so descripted between the dialogue, between the sound effects,
Oh yeah. Audiobooks like that, it's always a good time listening to them. Everyone knows here that, me and Milton especially, we really listen to them a lot. And, it's just nice how, like you said, I don't have experience with non-Star Wars books, but, like, the Star Wars audiobooks I do, it's nice because, like, they use the different sound effects from, like, the weapons to the ships to the, just the music even, which is cool. So yeah, it's definitely, if anyone's never experienced a Star Wars audiobook, I definitely recommend checking pretty much any of them out, really. As long as they're the newer ones. Don't, make sure you don't get the old ones that are like only 4 hours long and,
yes,
not edited. Because I made that mistake and accidentally purchased a wrong one before on Audible. but luckily they let you refund up to a year, which is so nice. But yeah, I definitely recommend them to anybody who's looking for a new avenue for Star Wars content. Like you said, you can
Yes.
listen to it when you're on the road or at the gym or whatever.
It is so neat though with the Dragon Age. I'll talk about it one more time. The format, it's actually not technically an audio drama, it's technically a podcast. And I know that's the biggest thing right now is you're constantly hearing like these for all intents and purposes, not knowing what the terminology I'm referring to a Star Wars video game as AAA quality, meaning it is like a Disney quality movie or a Lucasfilm or a Marvel, like it's top tier quality, and it's a free podcast, and it releases weekly for 45-minute episodes. It's a really cool experiment because I'm imagining like, oh, that'd be cool for Star Wars to do something like this. Like over the course of 8 weeks, release some kind of like Star Wars tale for 45 minutes. Like that Lucasfilm should seriously think about tapping into some kind of like new medium in a way that's like that. Yeah, they could even charge you like $20 and you just get the whole season of a show that you imagine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I actually, here we go into diving into an Audible podcast or a audiobook podcast. But I actually have not experience because I haven't consumed the content yet, but I've been like peppered with advertisements actually for it. Yeah. So through Amazon, they're actually, so on my Alexa, anytime I listen to music on it, there's always an advertisement almost every time I listen to music on it. Guillermo del Toro partnered with them, and he made a multi-part like horror series for them. It's called like, I think it's called The Boy in the Chest or something. And he wrote it, and it's like a multi-part podcast story, just like that one you're describing, Chris. And I just heard it advertised this morning after I got done working out and showered. I was listening to music and it popped up as one of the advertisements. It was like partnered with Guillermo del Toro, yada yada yada. But it's like it's a free horror thing they're advertising. But yeah, that's like you said, it's a really cool concept, and I would love to see Star Wars get into something like that.
Yeah, and what's neat is you can tell it's not episodic in a way where it's like each thing is a different tale. It's actually a series. Like there's the storyline of this character going on this journey to find her lover that disappeared into the Fade. If you know anything about Dragon Age, you probably know about that. But it is neat because they have like the full production, the music, which is apparently by Hans Zimmer's. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is what I mean, top tier production quality. And they have like in the beginning, they give you like the first like 5 minutes, and then they have like that intro video they would see in like any like Amazon series or HBO, the intro like bumper of like the narrator saying this is Dragon Age, blah blah blah, and then at the end of the episode they go through the credits, everybody involved, and they give you a teaser, like a preview for the next week's episode, which is edited nicely and just like, okay, like here's what's gonna happen. It leaves off a cliffhanger. You gotta wait till next week. It's basically that's what it is. It's a series in audio format, and I mean that would be a great idea. I know we do have Penguin Random House is the publisher for the Del Rey Star Wars books. They are coming out with a High Republic one in December. But maybe that's something they would do after that. I don't know. That'd be cool to have that content. I mean, very low cost content compared to doing a full-fledged movie or a series. The key, we always talking about the games, the TV, and the movies as like the primary Star Wars stories, really. But I feel like this is just untapped potential that could just keep the engagement of everybody around in a lot cheaper format,
Well, with how big podcasts are nowadays, like, they're everywhere. They get so much, like, podcasting, it's not even I mean, obviously the bigger things advertise, but like a lot of podcasting is grassroots, like it's word of mouth spreading. You see people sharing podcast clips on their stories or on Twitter or wherever. And like, that would be a really cool concept for them to potentially explore, because, you could do gosh, here we go, getting into a whole podcast of ideas for audiobooks. But
I think we might have lost you, Ben. I think we might have lost you. So I think he was talking about a new idea that's going to be happening with audiobooks, or audio dramas, we should say here. We'll give him a minute or two to come back in here for a sec. Yep. Okay, we're going to have to just go ahead and speak off the mind. There you go. There you go. You're back. You're back.
Oh, I don't know.
You disappeared for a second.
My Wi-Fi must have just dropped out or something.
I was just talking in a circle, hoping you would pop in, and here you are. So I think we're good. Repeat everything about how we're not supposed to be doing an audio podcast this week, but audio drama podcast this week. And here's an idea or something, and that's when you went out. Okay. Yep.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I know we're not supposed to be like diving into a full-blown audible idea podcast, but here we are. Yeah, like for me, an interesting way like Star Wars could, like, just imagine Star Wars if they would want to dive into the podcasting creative space, that is, not just like talk shows. If they would want to dive into the creative space, like the Guillermo del Toro thing, like your Dragon Age thing, etc., like they could go, so like just imagine they could launch that platform. You know, we had Disney Plus launch with Mando. Why not have Star Wars launch their platform with a flagship thing that got canceled? Like, what if they did an 8-part, 1-hour episode series for Book of Boba Fett, 8-part Kenobi series, 8-part Acolyte series, 8-part whatever? Like, you know, you could launch it with an actual show that's been canceled or something. Or actually, hey, if they want to go really grassroots, launch it with an 8-part Solo 2, like, expansion, like, with Kira and Han and Lando and all those people. Like, they could launch it with a flagship property, and I feel like that would be so big for the Star Wars community, because like it's another avenue to get Star Wars content, and you know, people really do love podcasts. Like, a lot of my media consumption is podcasts.
Yep.
Or it's audio, like me turning on a video of like people like John Campion just listening to them. So like Star Wars could really capitalize on something like this, in terms of, you know, they could make it free, but you know, those platforms get cash by advertising at the front and back end of the shows. So like they could easily do something like that, and like you said, it's low cost, and all you would need is just like basically to hire the writer and then hire whoever's doing the voiceover. But other than that, like, or the narration, I should say. Other than that, like it's right there on a silver platter, and I think I would personally love that sort of Star Wars content direction. Like, I really would. I think it would be so big for the franchise, really.
Hell yeah. So stay tuned, stay plugged in for everything with Star Wars audiobooks and podcasts here on this very podcast. How meta that is. So, getting into it, this week we had a milestone week. Last week we had Star Wars 50. This week, guys, we have Darth Vader 50. So, go ahead, check out my video. Go ahead and check out me and Matthew Neugebauer's breakdown of Vader 50 on the weekly Tractor Beam show. Also, we had the Star Wars High Republic Adventures issue number 10. That one's already up to issue 10. It's crazy, and that's going strong in phase 3. So there you go. Both those comics, you could check out our thoughts later on. Now, getting into some, I wouldn't even say these are smaller stories. These are very good stories that I'm very curious to see your thoughts on. So, first of all, the Jedi series from EA is doing very good. So apparently, first and foremost, if you don't have a PS5 or an PS5 or Xbox Series S or X, guess what? You could play Jedi Survivor, because you could play it now on an Xbox One or a PS4 if you still have not upgraded, which I do know people out there that have not upgraded, because a lot of the games you can play on PS5 and Xbox Series, you could play on Xbox One still, which is kind of insane with almost 4 years into the life cycle of this new generation. So there's a lot of players that got left behind that didn't get to experience what an awesome game that Jedi Survivor is. So there you go. There's your call to arms. Definitely check out the best Star Wars video game that I've played in years, not even exaggerating. I love Outlaws and all, but I've come to grips that Survivor is still the gold standard for what a Star Wars video game should be, from gameplay, from story, from production value, from music, from literally every aspect. This game hits it out of the park. So there you go. That one is there. But there was an interesting investors meeting or investors call with EA, and they say that over 40 million fans have played the Jedi games between Fallen Order and Survivor. So that's pretty freaking awesome. I know we sometimes have gripes in the earlier years of, oh, there's nothing good coming out of EA with Star Wars. And at the time, there was a lot of drama, I guess you could call it, with Battlefront 2 and Battlefront 1. And people were just soured by both of those, as they should be. But EA basically said, okay, we're going to give you guys exactly what you want. We're going to give you a single-player game with no microtransactions, and they stuck to their guns, and dang it, if they didn't come out with a really good product. So what are your thoughts on this game series reaching so many people?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's no surprise, like, with how, how good of a word of mouth that game had via, like, social media and YouTube and everywhere else. And, like, that game, it's a really good game. I haven't played through the second game, but I played the first game, loved it. And yeah, like that game franchise. I mean, it's so popular. Also, like, the lead actor Cameron Monaghan in it, he's great as Cal, and he's always a good spokesperson out there talking about the game, which is nice. So yeah, like I think it's really good, and for me, especially, like, when I was playing through the first one, obviously, I just really, really liked it a lot because it brought me back to, like, the Force Unleashed days, where you're, like, going through as, like, a Jedi, or as, like, a Force wielding character, on a mission, yada, 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 and all that stuff. So, like, I really like that aspect of Star Wars gaming, because I mean, heck, even going clear back to the Obi-Wan Kenobi game, like, I love those, like, the Force character led games, because I think the Force is, like, the heart of Star Wars. So I think it's really cool getting that character in the Jedi series. So yeah, it's exciting to hear that so many people played it. Mm-hmm. And, like, even people I know personally who were, like, definitely soured by Star Wars video gaming. Like, I have an older cousin that lives out west, and he does not have a lot of good things to say about Star Wars gaming, to say the least. But he went through and played through both of those games back to back in, like, a weekend. And he messaged me. This was a few months back. He messaged me and was like, he's like, "Dang, Ben, have you played these Star Wars Jedi games? Like, they're really, really good. Yada yada yada." And, like, that's coming from someone who, like, hates on Star Wars gaming for the most part.
Yes.
So, like, yeah. So, like, it's cool hearing someone like that really, really like it.
Yeah, I heard the same story a couple times. People that are down and out of Star Wars, but they're like, "Oh, I'll be playing that third Jedi game." And speaking of which, they did straight up confirm. And I mean, I think we assumed this, but they do straight up confirm that this third game, it will be the final chapter of this trilogy, right? This is going to be capping out Cal Kestis's adventure in between Empire Strikes. Oh, no. I'm so used to saying that with Outlaws. In between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. But, I mean, heck, we don't know when this third game comes in. They could have this set during the original trilogy. I mean, there was a time jump of 5 years between Fallen Order and Survivor. What's just saying they can't do that again and have us, like, in that Luke Skywalker period. Although that would probably bring up questions of where was he during the Battle of Endor? Why wasn't he on the Death Star with Luke confronting Vader and Palpatine? Like, this could be still before Andor or whatever. But another interesting aspect of this, so a lot of this presentation with the Investors Day stuff was talking about the Marvel stuff, because they do have a Black Panther game coming out. They have an Iron Man game coming out. and it was basically references to Marvel being very, very happy with the relationship with EA, because Lucasfilm and Disney already has a relationship with these Star Wars properties. And in that same blurb, they're saying we have delivered some of the highest quality and best-selling Star Wars games of all time, with over 5 billion in net backings. This impressive track record includes, of course, the Star Wars Jedi game. Wow, so they made $5 billion so far with this Star Wars deal. I think that's pretty freaking good.
Yeah, that's. I mean, if you think about it, like that harkens back. See, it's crazy hearing that, like, with the games. Obviously, games are not as crazy, probably, as like, producing like live action stuff or whatever. But like that harkens back to probably 6 or 8 months ago. There was a Forbes article that broke down and said, like, the net profit from like all the live action Star Wars stuff combined was only like 1 billion or something, or 2 billion for them so far. So like, it's crazy, like, hearing that, like, the gaming, being that big, but that shows you how much, how popular gaming is. And like, I really do think, especially after like the pandemic and all that stuff, I really think that whole couple year period got people, even more back into gaming, I would say, since people were at home and everything. And like, people really, they realize how good of a quality these games are. And, it doesn't surprise me they made 5 billion because of that. Like, I mean, they're really good quality, good stories, and that's what people want.
What I'm curious about is what percentage of this money came from Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes Wales. That mobile game is just basically created just for people to spend real life money to just save convenience time on just unlocking characters way sooner than grinding for literally months for them. That's why I stopped playing the game. I was like, this game's just engineered to print money in a scammy, greedy way. I hate to say it, but I'm not going to sit there and log in every day just for the sake of logging in to go on a carrot on the stick adventure for 5-6 months straight. No, not happening. I'll check out Instagram. I'll check out YouTube while I'm sitting there eating breakfast, rather than just clicking the same button every time.
Oh yeah, I mean that's how it is. That's how it is with a lot of games. They have like daily logins, because it's a checkbox for like the company, to like show investors and be like, hey, look at our engagement or whatever. I mean, that's something that Madden does. It's all the EA sports games, all the other sports games like 2K for basketball, whatever. They all have daily logins because it's like basic little daily things, but it's check boxes to get a little bit of XP toward your field pass, and then that it slightly benefits the user, and then it lets them show, like, the investors, hey, look at our engagement on the game today. It's just a common thing with gaming.
Yeah, so there's our bit of gaming news for the week. We're gonna get some movie news right now. So this came to us, let's see, this was on the Wall Street Journal. There was a video. Lando Calrissian actor Donald Glover himself has some thoughts on Star Wars. And basically in this interview, he's saying, for the most part, I think that there's been too many serious projects in Star Wars. Like, where's the humor? All this basically saying, I think the best potential of a Lando movie, I think the best part of him is the scoundrel, and I feel like people can relate to that. And he's probably like, man, this war is whack. I need money. It's just like the message. He wants like fun back in Star Wars. So you look back at the previous projects, like Acolyte is probably the most serious of them, followed by Andor. There really isn't moments of levity in either of those. They're really dour, very serious. Even the last season of Bad Batch was pretty dark. So like that's been the trajectory for a lot of these things, Obi-Wan Kenobi. But when you look at even like the recently released Outlaws dealing with a smuggler character, they tend to be like Indiana Jones, which has a lot more fun. Like, oh, we're going at the seat of my pants. Like, I don't know what to do. Let's try this. And it just comes off as like really funny, really wacky. A lot of the comics lately have been pulling this off in the Star Wars mainline series. There's a really funny Lando moment in the last issue, and he puts on this like ill-fitting Imperial garb to like basically get into some Imperial place. And then the person calls him out that he's trying to get the information from him, says, like, you introduce yourself as lieutenant, but you're wearing a captain's uniform. And he's just like caught in a lie, and he's trying to talk his way out of it. Like, those are the type of stories that we probably should get now. Like, it would be a good palate cleanser from all this stuff. What do you think about this, Ben?
Oh yeah, I mean, I completely agree. Like add some more of the lightheartedness back to Star Wars with those sorts of things. You reading that quote from Donald Glover just makes me kind of also harken back and think to like, I wonder if he was like, his ideas on Star Wars could have potentially been influenced by the original Solo directors, Lord and Miller, because, they were relieved because it sounded like that movie was going to be too lighthearted. So like, you have that potentially in the background, and then like, the current state of like Star Wars media with it being more serious and stuff. So it just kind of all adds up to like, not being like a huge surprise for me that he's thinking that way, and also makes me wonder like how long it could be potentially before we even see something from Donald Glover because of that. Like if Star Wars' vision is over here and his vision is over here, like how are they going to meet somewhere in the middle for that? Like, so I'm interested to see, because I do feel like his project could have really good potential though, because you can bring in your other ancillary characters like your Han, Kira, etc., 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 like all those characters. I mean, you could do those sorts of things and just really kind of give like a pseudo Solo 2, but have it more Lando led. I would say like maybe something along those lines. Yeah, I mean, I think it would be really cool. I mean, a couple of years, I think it was last year or the year before, we had Amelia Clark talking about how she wanted to come back. Like, you have the actors interested. It's just, when's the project coming?
Oh yeah, that's the thing. Is when is this project coming? There's been the whole Solo brand, man. Like it's nothing but drama. I mean, you said it here first. I mean, the whole thing with Lord and Miller, like that was unprecedented. They're in the middle of shooting. There's several sequences.
It was like 70% done, by the way.
And they're like, oh wow, that much? And they're like,
Yeah,
bye.
Like
We don't want you on this movie anymore. Like what? Ron Howard had to pick up the pieces and sprint to the finish line. That was crazy. And then there was these treatments for 2 other stories by John Kasdan, right? Yep. Larry Kasdan wrote on this, right? Was it the 2 of them, or is it just John?
I think it was just John, but I think the treatments were by Larry. The treatments were by Larry for the other couple projects.
Okay, so
pretty sure.
Yeah, you have that going on, and then that doesn't happen. And now the Lando series was announced in 2020, and we're in 2024, everybody. We got it. There's a whole bunch of stuff that got announced. Where's the droid story? We haven't heard that yet. Where's Rangers of the New Republic? Where's the Rogue Squadron movie? There's like half the stuff was never launched. And now apparently like the series is off the table, but they're gonna try to get it into a movie. And even this article, that he sounds hopeful for it, but it's nothing set in stone, nothing concrete. We've heard about this for a couple of months now, that this would be turned into a movie. So, and it's interesting, right? Because you look to things like Obi-Wan Kenobi, that could have easily been a movie. If Bob Iger was in charge at that time and not Bob Chapek, I bet you he probably would have just been like, no, keep this like a movie. But Chapek was like, we need Disney Plus content. Let's just break it into 6 parts and extrapolate. Just give it some room to breathe, and then that way we can make it into a 6-part epic event series. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, remember that it was originally talked, like, before they made the official announcement of E1 and all that stuff, like, it was talked all around, like, the Kenobi project was going to be a movie, and then, the writer like changed over to Joby Harold, and then all of a sudden we get a series, and it's like, what was going on there? Like, I would have, because you could have easily shaved that series down and made it into a movie. And like you said, it has to do with the leadership there that was at Disney. That's the main reason why I feel like, because Kenobi would have been an epic for the movie theaters, like, putting Obi-Wan versus Vader on the poster potentially or something like that would have been like major. So it's interesting to hear Donald Glover's comments though, tie it back into this story, just because we've talked about it 2 or 3 weeks ago now when we were on here talking a bit about Bob Iger. Like, since he's came back, he's shifting Marvel back to the theaters. Star Wars' projects are getting shaved down as well. So it only makes sense it would go back to theaters, because like the streaming model, it just isn't as good as it was just a few years ago. And now the theaters are producing big hits again. Like, it's not like it was, I mean, heck, even last year theater movies, other than like Barbie and Oppenheimer, a lot of movies bombed last year. And then 2 years ago, like movies are just now recovering, like where, we're getting consistent, pretty big hits like Deadpool this summer. We're hearing great things about like the Wild Robot movie, all these different things coming out. The Beetlejuice movie was a hit, etc. Like, so it's only natural to put Lando in this, and then with Lando you can kind of, like I said, pull in the ancillary characters for like the big screen, like your hero, like your potentially Han Solo. It would be interesting. That's the one
Jabba.
that's the one I'm looking for. Will they bring Alden back?
He was in a recent report, and he definitely sounded like he would like to be back when somebody asked him. So
I would like it personally, because I've said this for so long, just to like end on this movie comment. Like, I just wish Star Wars would just bite the bullet and be like, hey, Alden's our new Han Solo.
Okay.
Donald is our Lando moving forward, and then we're gonna find a Luke and we're gonna find a Leia, and then boom, there's our 4 young original trilogy actors we have for the next 40 years potentially or something. Like, I wish they would just do that, because like then we could have unlimited stories basically for Han, Luke, Leia, and Lando again.
Yeah, so, that would be a huge win. I really feel like it.
That would be my dream scenario for Star Wars. Like, come out at Celebration this coming year, bring out Donald, bring out Alden, and then bring out 2 surprise actors for Luke and Leia. Get these young people that are like early 30s, so then they could literally play the character till their 70s or something. Like, that would be my ideal outcome from this Donald Glover stuff, like just long term.
Yeah, the CGI stuff is cool and all, but man, that's not going to be cheap enough to just do long-term storytelling by any means.
Oh yeah, I
and
agree.
It's going to take way too long to produce stuff as well, rather than just shoot somebody that's human. So this week we got the reveal of the Jabba the Hutt Sail Barge Ultimate Collector Series from Lego. The katana herself in all its glory. Oh my goodness, man. I want this thing more than any other Lego I've seen in recent memory. They had the Republic gunship, they had the Venator class Star Destroyer. But what really sold me on this was the amount of minifigures that you get. I'm looking through this list. You're getting an awesome looking Jabba the Hutt. You're getting C-3PO. You're getting Bib Fortuna. You're getting Max freaking Rebo. You are getting, just Salacious B. Crumb. You're getting the R2 with the bartending stuff on him. You're getting like just Gamorrean Guard. You're getting Slave Leia. You're getting the dude that is a Klatooian, and another person. I can't zoom in far enough on my computer to see who else, but that's what I can see from the broad silhouettes I'm looking at right now. But it's so neat because it's all modular. You can actually take off, or you could like pull apart the different panels and actually have like a little playset itself in here. I know recently we had the HasLab, which is backing the barge. I remember that hashtag, back the barge. I think that was the first Hasbro committee like voting, forget the term for that, when you pledge money and you get enough numbers and they let it go through. Crowdfunding, there we go. Crowdfunding was for this very thing, but in a vintage 3.3 or 4 inch scale for the action figure. So very reminiscent of that. What are your first thoughts on seeing this?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. I mean, it looks great. Like the detail, the like I don't. It just looks really good. Like it's crazy to see how far Legos have came because excuse me. I grew up like we all grew up really in the 90s, early 2000s with all those like really classic Star Wars Legos from like 1996 to like 2005. Like all of those during that time period were just so many. Like they were all so cool and everything, but like we never had anything like this. Like there was never, the only thing even close to this back in the day was like there was like a Death Star.
Yeah.
There was like a Star Destroyer, I think, and that was pretty much it. Like there wasn't any other like big, like especially like the way they did these, where they're actually like. I like what they're doing with these projects now because like they're scaling them with the figures, like. So like the minifigures are like kind of like scaled to like the size of the ship and stuff, so it's not like the minifigures are huge compared to the ship or whatever. Like it looks really really good. And like anytime I see these sorts of things, I'm like, gosh, I just wish I could like buy them and set them up, but I just have no room for these sorts of like big Lego sets. But yeah, I mean Lego holds a special place in my heart, and like this whole thing looks amazing, especially because I'm a big fan of Return of the Jedi. Like I think I just think that entire film is excellent, and like this whole sequence, it's cool seeing them actually lay it out. Like I really like the look and detail of it. And like you said, I just like the fact that they have so many minifigures with it, because that was an issue with I don't remember what it was. It might have been like a clone ship a couple years ago or something. There was something that got released, I think from Lego, where it was like they only had like one or two, like maybe two figures or three figures.
It was ridiculous.
And I was just like, you're so basically you have to buy a bunch of extra figures to like satisfy like your Lego needs for that set. Versus like this one, it has like all the main people you want for the Lego set, which is awesome.
Yeah, and considering like you pay such a premium price, you're talking what, $500 for these things at least probably, and you're not getting the full package essentially. And how much more money would it have costed them to just throw in those little minifigures? Does it cost that much money to really just make a couple of those for the sticker price alone? It's like, oh my goodness. So yeah. It's good that it seems like they are listening to the feedback at the very least.
Oh yeah. It definitely, it's nice that they're listening to feedback, and I also really like the fact that, like this also leaves a lot of potential on the table for more future like big Lego sets like this. Maybe give us a Jabba's palace to pair with this. Ooh. Would be really cool. I think I would like just imagine if you had a Jabba's palace with like a little Rancor. You like if they made it like 2 levels where you could put a Rancor down below and then have the whole setup or something. Like I think there's a lot of cool potential with this, and like that's always one of my favorite things with Star Wars Lego is like they can like highlight a lot of these cool moments. Like even though I don't have the set personally, I remember I seen I think it was maybe 3 years ago now, they released like the whole like I'm your father like Bespin sequence basically from Luke, like a diorama thing, and that looked really cool. And I've seen other ones, like my cousin personally, he has like the Lars Homestead one, like, and has that whole setup. So it's cool what Lego can do, and just seeing like Jabba's sail barge like this, it just gives me hope for even more future like iconic ship not even like huge ships like Star Destroyers, but like other big iconic moments. Like maybe give us I don't know, like a Phantom Menace hangar base sequence from like the end when Darth Maul walks out, and then you have the starfighters, droidicas. Like maybe give us like something like that where they have like the Phantom Menace thing. Like I don't know. I think
Ooh.
there's a lot of potential there they could do with these Lego designs and sets.
Oh yeah, and it's not ending anytime soon. Getting into the next Lego thing, our main topic for this week is Lego Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy. So it's been a while since we have gotten a Lego Star Wars special. And this is not just a special, this is an actual series, a 4-episode series. And while we're on that subject, that's the one big gripe I have, that I have a question mark about this whole thing, is this is coming in at a little over an hour. The idea that it was released in a single day, why wouldn't they just put this all as like one actual special? Like the other ones, of course the other ones were only like 40 minutes long. But that was the one gripe I had. But we can get into that now or later. But the idea is, this thing gave me a lot of joy. I laughed a lot. I thought they did a great job with, implementing the Force with Legos. You have a character that has a coming of age story, very, very similar to Luke Skywalker, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it, essentially. You got the mentor, sacrifice the mentor, all these kind of things. But you have a lot of fun along the way. So what are your thoughts on this overall?
Yeah, for me overall, I'm very similar to you, what you said initially. Like, I really enjoyed it overall. Like, got a lot of good, charming things. We'll dive into all those details. And then, my only gripes was, like you said, it was like a bit over an hour long. So you could have released it. I'm not kidding. My first thought after the reveal at the end of it was, as soon as the credits came up, I thought this should have been just a movie. Like, I really wish it was just a movie. But I understand why they do it that way, just because it's like, you'll have kids watching it, so it's better to like probably give them a shorter episode for attention span and stuff like that. But like, I'm just like, selfishly, I just wish there was an option on these Lego things that you could just like filter down from series to movie, and it just like has a whole just crunched together movie version of it. Like that's all I would love. But other than that, I mean, other than the formatting of it like that, I love this Lego special. It was one of my favorites that they've released so far. And yeah, it just, like I said, has a lot of good charm to it, and it was really good. It really was like, I just love the entire premise of it almost being like a pseudo what if for Star Wars.
And they're building an entire. They did the groundwork. They built this entire framework of how this is going to work in Star Wars Galaxy. I love how they did that in the beginning. It's like we are in the Star Wars Prime universe, for lack of a better term, or stuff that is in the movies. And for the first time, one of the first times, like, you're a post Rise of Skywalker, like in a time of peace. And I really enjoyed just the voice acting. I thought it was really good. It's great to hear an alumni, or he's still involved with Stranger Things, Gatton from Stranger Things, voicing the main character, Siggy Greebling. Gotta love that last name. Greeblies and Star Wars, those little things that make Star Wars objects look a little bit more used, and different things like Greeblies, that's what they are. But yeah, you got this, and it's the classic conflict of a brother, or the familial conflict, whether it be the father and son, or in this case the brother and the brother. And the idea of this entire galaxy being rearranged, it works so well in Lego, because it's literally the bricks are coming apart and just built somewhere else. It is so cool. It's like, yeah, you see the walkers on Mustafar, but then you also see like the TIE fighters getting melded into the X-Wings. And then at a ideological level, you're seeing characters like Vader and Palpatine ended up being Jedi. It's like, what? This is like so bogus from a concept, but it's so neat to see, like you said, the what if.
Yes, exactly. And even though this is just a minor detail, I have to mention this since we're at the beginning of the beginning of it, and I want to mention it before I forget it. Um, so you talk about it like laying the groundwork for all of this and everything, and like it's like post Rise, all these things. Um, so they already laid out kind of the groundwork for even more of it, because in the opening few lines of the show, they're taught. He's the character's like telling the story about Luke and everything, but he also mentions I think Boba and Thrawn in there. And he's like, oh, those are
Yeah.
stories for like a different time, whatever. But it's like, oh, so does that mean we're gonna get like a Boba or Thrawn thing at some point down the road now, like a rebuild? Oh man, I would love to see what they would do, like rebuild the Book of Boba Fett.
Oh my god.
Because like you could do a lot of funny stuff with that. But like I think that's their way of like giving us a little hint, like maybe the next thing, what if they do a rebuild with Thrawn, like they rebuild his thing in Rebels, like maybe something along those lines. So I just think it's nice because it's kind of like a pseudo MCU-ish situation where they're laying out Easter eggs for people that pay attention for potential future projects, and I really, really, really like that they added that into this. But yeah, and then like you said, Chris, like I really think the charming part of this whole thing is it's like it's Star Wars at its core. Like you said, father, there's brothers, and then you got, of course, you still got Luke and Vader and all this, and then you have Sig and his brother. Like, so you have all these characters that are like the core. They carry the core values of Star Wars, and then they do it, and they did. It's nice that they did this in the way they did, where like you still can bring in your iconic characters, but you don't necessarily need this show to be carried by, like Rey or something, or Luke,
Yeah.
or Anakin, or whatever.
Oh yeah. One of the biggest things I love about it is how they treat the Force in a Lego world, and how they have the lore built up where it's like you have the Jedi Force builders and then the Sith breakers, and it really lends itself so well to the idea of a Jedi like building things up, being positive to people, influence them in the right light, and the Sith are just about destruction generally. So to see them breaking apart the bricks, seeing Darth, what is his name?
Devastator.
Darth Devastator, to be that way, and to see that Siggy is learning the ways of the Force from Jedi Bob. Like, there's some funny things in there, but this whole thing about the cornerstone being ripped out, and the story is just, basically rolling with the punches. Like, stuff happens, you don't have control, you got to live with the results, and you got to make the best of it. Like, that's one of the best messages I got from this whole show so far, is you're not in control of everything that's external to you, so you have to adapt. You have to, sometimes it can be really difficult, sometimes it's really aggravating, but it's not worth that amount of pressure and aggravation. You just got to persevere, man. You just got to get through it. You just got to put your head down sometimes, get through it. It'll be all right. So really good lessons for the kids, I feel like, in this.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like that's one of the best things about these Lego specials is they have good lessons for the kids, like that. And then like you also have, it's nice that they added in so many like little Easter eggs for like the adults and like the hardcore Star Wars fans that'll be watching with like a younger audience, or that'll be watching just to like review it for something like we do. Either way, like both audiences can find entertainment in this special, which to me, that's another core aspect of Star Wars. Like, A New Hope, younger audiences or older audiences can get into that. Or like, more recently, Mando. Mando is so accessible for like everybody, especially like season 1, because of that like whole thing of like younger audiences, older audiences, everywhere in between. So like this special is like no different, where if you're this special may not fit particularly for like not a super hardcore Star Wars fan like us, where we know the characters and know all the like ins and outs of things, but like even for people that may just watch it casually, like a grandparent who's seen Star Wars before, like when you get to the part where Leia's with like Greedo, they even an older audience member would probably laugh about that and be like, oh wow, she's with him instead of Han, or whatever. Like, so you have these sorts of things where it's like, it just gives access to a wider range of audiences.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. What I will say is, kind of cutting to the chase here, is there's a big cliffhanger. And this is actually booked. I'm pretty cool with Disney opening up the door. Now, they've done this before. It's not going to say we ever have anything to continue based off Acolyte, but it certainly feels like there's going to be, hopefully, at least ideas for a season 2.
Well, here's something to think about with that, Chris. Like I mentioned, think about the beginning of the series, they were teasing Thrawn stuff. And then the end of it, we get the big reveal of the Landalorian. So, which is Lando, by the way, for anyone wondering.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have... So, like, what if they go back and do, like, a whole... I don't know, like a Lando history thing. Like, I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, it could be, like, a cool Lando... Like, what if he's Moff Gideon's character, basically, instead of Moff Gideon?
Oh, yeah, that could be... Yeah, that could be interesting. It could be interesting. It just made me laugh so hard. Like, wait, what? Like, we're combining characters now. This is hilarious. Oh, you there? Okay, so I think we lost you again. Ben, I think your internet might be losing it. Either that or I am. Yeah, but as far as... I'll wait for Ben to get back into the call here.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay, you're back in.
Sorry about that. I'm not sure what's going on tonight with our internet, folks. But as you were saying...
Oh yes, as I was saying, like, basically it's cool to see characters combined in this. It's not... You got personas like the Mandalorian and Lando, the Landalorian. Who is this guy bringing us out? I was like, oh, that's the baby. Like, wait, is the baby like a mastermind now? What's going on with Grogu?
Mm-hmm. I really like that they did that. Like, that was such a nice change up. And like I said, or I might have been saying as I was cutting out, but I really like that they did that, because it's like, you're not just switching out the Mandalorian with like a random character like Jango Fett or someone. It's actually Lando. So like, I just really like that they went that direction with it. And like I said, it was a true surprise to me. Like, I was not expecting it to end that way whatsoever, because I was like, when everything starts wrapping up and then like the camera's panning, I'm like, okay, what are we doing? Are we going to get some little Easter egg at the end? And then boom, it's like, oh, we're teasing pretty much the next series or season of this.
Yeah, it's great. Getting into the fun of this show, of the creators, the writers really leaning into the fandom from the external view, not just within Star Wars, but outside on social media. Like, the recap of all of what happened in the beginning of the episode, and you literally have Luke Skywalker jumping on the back of Rey, and she's running around just like you see in those behind the scene photos of them outside of the studio with Daisy Ridley carrying Mark Hamill on his shoulders. Like, that was great. There's like a lot of things about the dead speak, when Palpatine rises. Like, yeah, that's been a meme for years now about it. Like, just they're so in touch, these creators, with just going with it, just absolutely going with Lucasfilm, giving them the leniency to just like, yeah, you guys, like, we've done some weird things, just have fun with it. No one's going to take this seriously.
Well, exactly. Like, that's my thing. I've said it for so long about Lucasfilm and Star Wars. Like, they run things. They're so buttoned up. and so like uptight on a lot of things. It's nice that they're kind of like loosening the reins a little when it comes to like the Lego stuff, because it's like let them have fun with it. Like you said, you have Luke with Daisy. I mean, heck, even Luke's line. I loved them kind of like taking a comedic view of like, people have their issues with the sequels basically because of Luke, and them like having Luke sarcastically like recap his story. That's a funny point for like people like me that were critical of that. It's like, oh yeah, that's a good laugh, and like I like that Star Wars just lets them lean into that versus like, oh no, you can't talk about the sequels because of you're not allowed to do that. So like I really liked that they did that. I liked even some of the little wisecracks, like when Palpatine talks to Vader about promoting him to council. Like I thought that was a funny little thing. So like I just really like that they went and added these like external things, or like you said, the Palpatine like dead speak stuff. Like I really had a good time with this series because of those parts. And again, like to my opening salvo, those parts, those external things are what people like you, me, Milton, everybody else, like the older generation, will really appreciate with something like this, because you can finally look at Lucasfilm and be like, hey, they're not being so buttoned up. They're actually letting their creators have a little fun.
Exactly. So there you go. Some other ones I quite enjoyed, like little things. First off, like I don't think the animation with the Lego stuff gets enough recognition, because it's really neat actually seeing it animated in a stop motion type ordeal. Obviously it's CG, but the idea that it's actually looking like this, where the characters move, they're running, the collapse to frame rate looks like slowed down. It looks really beautiful. You go a lot of different locations. Like I said, snow, you see every kind of biome in here, even if it's just a matter of a couple seconds. So very vibrant show.
Oh yeah, well that's one of my favorite aspects of Lego to begin with. Whether it be the games or the other specials, like the original holiday special from like 3 or 4 years ago. Like all of these different Lego things, in this one included, they all, like, I think that's one of the best parts of Lego Star Wars, is the environments. Like, I think that's why we appreciate so many things like that Jabba's sail barge, like the other big things, because Lego can really represent the Star Wars environments really, really well. I mean, we witnessed it in this show. We seen it in the Skywalker Saga game. Like it's cool just seeing Lego represent these iconic Star Wars locations, because whether it be like in the show, we're exploring and seeing other parts of these planets and other parts of these ships that are in Lego form versus just being like a quick little glance in live action. We're not getting to see any of the rest of it. Like it's cool. Lego can kind of like expand and give more of a basic view, but it gives you more of like kind of a broad view as well.
Oh yeah, you definitely get that macro, but the smaller view. The one aspect I really like that they dove into in the first couple minutes of episode 1 is the idea of nerf herding. We've heard this all the way back in 1980 with Harrison Ford going, scruffy, or let's say scruffy looking nerf herder, and even make a joke out of that. That was like, or Siggy's like, oh no, I'm not a nerf herder. Wait, what did it say? It's some funny joke based off of that.
Yep, he said, yeah, it was something off that, but that was another note I made in my notes was, so they finally added that in as a concept. So nerfs are a creature, I guess. Like, cause like, nerf herding, like to me that, and like the way they described it, or the way they acted about it, it seemed like it was like a low grade profession or something.
Yes.
So to me that screams like a sheep farmer or something. You know what I mean? Like something like that, like a low paying thing. So it just, yeah, I thought that was really cool because I like when they pull in just little things like that that people wouldn't even expect. Like that was definitely not on my bingo card at all. And I really liked that surprise of like, hey, that's a new concept added into Star Wars because even in all the Legends books I've read over the years, I've never once heard them address that.
Actually, no. You know what? Nerfs were in Star Wars: The Old Republic, the
Were
MMO.
they?
You go to Alderaan, and
Oh,
I think
dang.
there's nerfs on Alderaan. So, but
I see.
the mainstream now you can actually see what these things semi look like in Lego form.
Dang, that's cool. I like that they did that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's really good stuff here. You know, Han Solo being a bad guy, selling him out. Like, there's, instead of Lando selling him out, it's basically Han. So there's character archetypes and characters themselves that are flipped to have different things. So it was really entertaining to watch because you just don't know who's going to show up.
Yeah, I mean that was one thing I was really paying attention because scene to scene it's like, oh, we go from Palpatine and Vader to this character, this character. Like, I don't know who's gonna pop in because Lego it's all over the place. Like you don't know what's coming next. So I really like that it's not just like like a retelling of episodes 1 through 9. Like I like that it's so random. It could be literally any character in Star Wars.
Heck yeah. So if I were going to give this a score, I'd give it a solid 8 out of 10. I think this is a great Star Wars series. There's a lot to get out of this one. There's a lot of enjoyment. I feel like people, kids as well as adults, will get a kick out of this. There's a lot of great meta Easter egg jokes. Production quality itself, everything looks great, sounds great. Yeah, this is good stuff right here. An easy recommend to hold us over until December with Skeleton Crew.
Oh yeah, for sure. I completely echo those sentiments. That was my rating as well when I finished it. I said it was an 8, just because it's just really good, fun Star Wars, and like you said, it's something to watch in the meantime, leading up to Skeleton Crew. Because no matter who you are, if you don't want to watch it by yourself as like an adult or whatever, everybody knows younger kids in their lives, and like you could show them this and they would be entertained by it.
Oh yeah.
But it's a good series. It's a fun watch. It also brought up a interesting note for myself because I mean I was surprised, and I mean I think you were too in the chat today, Chris, that so the guy who plays Han Solo in this, it's not Harrison Ford actually, even though he sounds just like Harrison Ford. Like I'm not kidding. When I watched it, I thought it was Harrison, and I went to look it up because I was like, Harrison did a Lego special. Like what? And I looked into it, and the guy's name's Ross Marquand, and the thing is, he sounds so much like Harrison Ford. Like I hope they keep him like under like retention where he does more Han Solo content, because the thing is, now you have an actor that could play a young Han Solo in like a I don't even know what you call the character, but like real life, like Bad Batch. Like you could do like a Han, like, and you obviously have to probably get Mark and then someone else to play Leia, but you could do like a Han Luke Leia series post 6 with this Ross Marquand guy playing Han, because he sounds just like Harrison Ford. And the dude, I looked it up, he's only like 43 or 44 years old, so like he's another one. He could play Han Solo forever in the animated form. So I really hope they retain him to do future projects for Han Solo, just for that simple fact, because like I said, I was completely fooled. I thought it was Harrison Ford, and it wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, I flawlessly. I didn't even think. Like that's the best thing to do is if you are watching a show or a game or a movie, and you're watching it, and then this person just effortless feels like the other character that you know and love. Didn't give it a second thought until you mentioned. I'm like, Oh yeah, he does sound so good because I never even second guessed that it wasn't Harrison Ford in the first place.
Yeah, I was shocked because honestly, I'm glad I did Google it today because or last night, I mean, because if I wouldn't have just thought about it, because like last night when I was getting ready for bed, I wondered if it was Harrison, so I looked it up and it wasn't. And I'm glad I did because honestly, I would have came onto the podcast with the assumption it was Harrison, and probably my statement would have been, "Wow, I can't believe Harrison like got on and did the Lego special and stuff, yada yada yada." Well, turns out he didn't, and it was this other guy who sounds just like him. And also, for a split second there as well, when I realized it wasn't Harrison, and it was Ross. I also thought, man, they could even just had Mark Hamill do Harrison's voice because he can do a great Harrison impression actually. So like they have options there for Star Wars or for Han Solo, but I really do hope they retain this guy because I think he hits the Harrison voice perfectly. Like you said, it just flawlessly flows right with the character.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. There you go. So another actor in Star Wars to look out for. There we go. So that's going to do it for us here this week on episode 169 of Outer Rim Transmission. Milton will be with us on our next episode. Not sure what we'll be talking about, but hey, Lucasfilm, now might be the time to unveil your next animated show, because now at this current time there's nothing in development. There's no more things to promote for Lego Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy. That is out and being streamed across the world, but what do we have next? I'm hoping we get that announcement very, very soon, so stay tuned. But Ben, where can the people find you?
Yeah, everyone can find me talking Star Wars or fitness or the NFL at Real Ben Maynard on X or Instagram. And if they want to follow Milton, he's always posting sports takes on Twitter or on X at Milton Weber 7, or he's always posting like his like fitness journey as well on Instagram at Milton 7 Weber.
There you go. There you go. And you can find me right here on youtube.com/Starrapter, as that's where I live on YouTube. Just posting the usual, like I said, Star Wars comic reviews over there on the Star Wars Underworld YouTube channel with Matthew Neugebauer on our Tractor Beam weekly comic show every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern. So you'll find me there along with my good old buddy Matthew, as well as on Twitter, twitter.com/Starrapter, where you'll often see me reposting about video game news, as well as that is one of my die-hard passions, gaming. So, for Milton, who could have joined us, for Ben, for Chris, aka Starrapter, that's going to do it for Outer Rim Transmission, episode 169. We hope you have a good week. May the Force be with you always, and transmission.